What up, everybody? It is Friday. That means we bring on a guest, we go through the slate, we pick an FFPC team, and we hang out with everybody. Today, got one of my good buddies here. Shout out to the Denver area. Mile High Luke already in the chat giving the shout outs. My guy Dave Kluge, one of the football guys, a big football guy, and one of my favorites, man. What's happening, bro?
Not too much. Thanks for having me, man. It's first time we've got to talk in season. Had to wait all the way until after week one. Like, been way too long. We went like 10 days without talking to each other. Let's never let that happen again.
Annoying. It's crazy, dude. I feel this year, man, we've been too separated. At the expo.
Even at the expo, I know I saw you like a few times when it was like passing, like, what's up? Hey, let's catch up later. And we did that like 4 times, and then before I know it, I'm on a flight home.
That's what I'm saying, dude. So hey, we're taking an hour right now. We're taking an hour to hang out, man. And everybody in the chat, thank you for hanging out. If you got questions, we'll answer them today. But do us a favor. We're gonna go through every game on the slate. So just kind of hang with your question, and once we get to a pertinent game, then throw it out there. So, for instance, we're going to talk about Tampa Bay, Detroit right now because we only have so much time. And if you have a question that involves a player from this game, throw it in the chat. I'll weigh in. Kluge will weigh in. We'll get it all done for you guys. One exception, George, I got his question in before I said that. So real quick, drop Jalen Wright for Bucky Irving. That's tough because we both believe in Jalen Wright.
We do. And I think this was something where like we were hoping that, not hoping, but you know what I'm saying? Like I wish Jalen Wright's opportunity came a little bit later in the season. Week 4, week 5, week 6, they probably would have trusted him with a bigger workload. But after being inactive week 1, because he doesn't have anything on special teams, and then getting thrown out there week 2 on a short week, I understand why he was limited, but I'm still holding on to hope. But man, it's impossible to ignore what we saw from Bucky Irving. Rashad White was one of the least efficient running backs last year, and that carried over into this year where he was still a pretty inefficient runner. So I think it depends what you're looking for. Like if you've got a strong starting lineup and you don't need to rely on one of these guys, I prefer Wright for the upside. But if you need somebody that you need to start in your flex or your RB2 spot or something, you've at least got a little bit of standalone value with Bucky Irving.
Plus, Devon Achane was fine. Like they tricked us. Once again, fooled. Awesome player. On one team, I have like a wagon dynasty team, and I had him on my bench, and it still hurt. I still have great players. Like I have Saquon and Derrick Henry and stuff, but it just hurts. But I would say this: if you put it this way, George, if you play on Sleeper or Yahoo, where you have that setting where you can drop guys off your bench that have already played, just pick up Bucky right now because no one's going to be clamoring to pick up Jalen Wright if he's already played and he didn't look great, and they can't even pick him up once you drop him. So that's it there. What's up, everybody? We got Ann in the house, Brad, Jerry as always, Charlene, gang's all here. We have so many games to get through because there's no bye week. So let's jump in. Here's what we're doing today, folks. We're going through and we're picking the must-start players out of all these games. So that's going to be superstars that you can't afford to not play, and guys whose matchups are so good that we believe they can be top 12, 15 or so guys, even if they're not ranked that way by the rest of the industry, right? And what we're going to do at the end of the show with all those players that we pull out is we're going to make an FFPC lineup. Over on FFPC, you can go get set up over there. Use promo code Coop. They'll give you $25 when you deposit $35 or more. It's so that this is one of my favorite weekly games, Kluge. And we talked before the show. You said you haven't played.
I haven't.
Unlike the ones that have the salary and unlike the ones that have all the other stuff, there's no salary. There's no draft. You can start any player you want. The only caveat is you can't start 2 players from the same team. So if we start Amon-Ra St. Brown, we can't start Laporta. And because of that, the wrinkle I like, there's no stacking. So you can't just get like sometimes at DFS, if you don't start, if you don't start Mahomes and
Kelsey and Worthy and right.
So we can't do that. So let's get in. Very first one on the slate here on the list is the best one. Tampa Bay at Detroit, 51 over under, 7.5 point favorites. The Lions are, if this were a betting show, I might say I kind of like Tampa Bay. I think they looked great this weekend, but it's not a betting show. So let's start with Tampa Bay. What are our options for slam dunks that we would consider for a lineup?
I think the 2 slam dunk options are Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And I know Mike Evans got the 2 touchdowns last week, so a lot of people are probably going to go there. But, man, I really like the usage for Chris Godwin. We saw him working primarily out of the slot. That slot rate got bumped up a lot from last year, and that's where we saw him feasting with Jameis Winston a few years back. And I know we hear about it all the time in the offseason, like we want to get our best playmakers in the slot. But Tampa Bay actually did it in week 1. So I'm expecting a big resurgence from Chris Godwin this year. We saw the usage, that touchdown cologne on Mike Evans right now might make people want to veer towards him, but I'm going Chris Godwin out of Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that's the thing with Mike Evans, dude. He's kind of always rocking that touchdown cologne. So he's never a bad pick, but I
Right.
love the slot usage. Last year he only had one regular season game where he played more snaps in the slot than out wide. What were they doing? Why would they do that? So
Well,
this
they
year,
weren't running a ton of 3 wide sets last year, so I think
yeah,
that could have been
true.
the issue. There just wasn't a slot player on the field a lot of the times, but with Jalen McMillan now they're gonna run a lot more 3 wide receiver sets, and that's when Chris Godwin gets pushed into the slot where he plays best.
Yeah, last week Cooper Cup. I know Puka Nacua was out, but Cooper Cup got 21 targets. 14 of them came in the slot. 11 of them he caught. So there's work to be done against these Lions. And I will say, let's hit real quick. And we have a McMillan question. So FFPC. So this is tight end premium. McMillan versus Thielen versus Hopkins versus Zamir versus Chuba. I didn't like the usage for Zamir or Chuba, but still against those wide receivers, maybe. What do you think, man?
Hopkins scares me too with that knee issue.
Can't start him.
I think I might be going McMillan here for the upside because Zamir White and Chuba showed every red flag of a dead zone running back. Like they were only getting early down touches on terrible offenses, losing out on passing down work. I have absolutely no faith in those guys.
Zamir gets the Ravens.
Yeah. I think I'm going McMillan here. You gotta risk it sometimes.
I'm with you, man. He almost had 2 touchdowns if he didn't drop one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick here, 2 of these guys: Olave, Devonta Smith, Godwin, Ramondre Stevenson for Brad.
My rankings prefer Olave and Godwin, but there's a strong argument to be made to put Devonta Smith in over Olave.
I think my rankings actually have Smith and Godwin. I have these guys all very close, but I think I have Smith and Godwin. That's, I in those situations, Brad, I take a coin and I say heads is Olave, tails is Smith. When you flip that coin, your heart will tell you which player you want in there before it even hits the ground.
You're probably going to make the wrong choice anyway.
Yeah,
fantasy football goes.
I think I go Smith and Godwin.
Yeah.
Smith also, he's got a good matchup versus Atlanta. Because AJ Terrell is probably going to be on AJ Brown, a little AJ battle, and that's Monday night, which is fun. So go.
Yeah, like I said, my rankings prefer Olave, but my rankings always prefer Olave, and it just always seems to be the wrong choice. I want to see him and Derek Carr be able to get on the same page.
Yeah, Olave, I think is definitely gonna have a better week this week. It's we love that they use the fullback. We'll get to that team when we get to that team. We got a lot of teams to get to.
Yeah.
Lions, we need a Lion. We're probably not going to go Goff as a QB, right? Maybe using a little more mobile.
I'm going back to the well, man. Amon St. Brown, I know he had a down week, and I think maybe because of that down week, he might not be quite as rostered. So by taking Amon here, you might actually be able to get a little bit of uniqueness in this build. It was concerning seeing Jameson Williams out there pulling 9 targets. Well, Amon only got 6, and even on the targets Amon did get, he struggled. He had some drops. He had some slips. He wasn't getting open the way that he used to. And I went back and I watched the snaps, and I was like, man, Amon looks terrible. And then I looked up his PFF grade, and he was graded as the 12th worst receiver on the week. So I don't know exactly what it was, but we've seen 2.5 years of Amon St. Brown tearing up the NFL. I'm not willing to just say that he forgot how to play football. So I'll go back to the well and take Amon here. I think with that squeaky wheel narrative, right? Like everyone, Jameson Williams came out last week. I think they go back to Amon this week.
He'll be fine, dude. He'll be fine. Real quick, because since we got to move on to the next matchup, just give me a name on here. White or Pollard? I'm guessing Rashad White. It's Rashad White because we're talking about the Bucks.
Yeah, let me take a look real quickly. I'm very bullish on Pollard, but
I know
I actually have Pollard 1 spot ahead of Rashad White.
Do it, because they said Coach Todd Bowles said he was going to go hot hand. Rashad White on the rushing side of things had probably about the coldest hand in the league, and then Rashad White, Javonte Williams, or Jameson Williams.
I'm going JMO and Rashad White here. Javonte's usage was scary in week 1.
Right. Yeah. All right. Next game here, we got the Jets Titans. 41 point over under, 3.5 point favorites. The Jets are. So, Vegas is like that. I'll tell you. You look at a lot of these spreads. You think week 1, everything that happened week 1 is all we know. But Vegas is they stay the course, right? They don't overreact to week 1. So they're saying Aaron Rodgers is still the guy. In this matchup, the Jets options are obvious.
There's 2. There's really only 2 guys. Yeah.
I'll throw them on the sheet, right? Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. there's Brees Hall to me is a guy that you could not create a lineup. Like if you had a team, you couldn't come up with a team where I wouldn't put him in the lineup,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
He's
he's
top
amazing.
top three.
He's our generation's Matt Forte, or the younger generation's Matt Forte. Like that's exactly who he is. So I prefer
Saints.
Brees to Garrett Wilson, but let's keep both of them on the sheet. That way we got a little bit of flexibility when we're building this roster later.
On the Titan side, we got to watch. I got to see DeAndre Hopkins play football. I got to see him play an entire game. He's on my do not start list until I see a game where he plays 80% of the snaps, because you can't trust this guy with the not practicing, the practicing. I don't trust a single word this guy says. They could tell me he's playing 100% of the snaps this week, and I wouldn't start him. If he plays, because it's not that good a situation anyway. So, especially against these corners, right? If he plays 80% of the snaps this week, next week he'll be back on the menu, right?
And I will say, like, DeAndre Hopkins 5 years ago could not log a single practice during the week. He'd be a game time decision, and I'd still put him in my lineup, and he can go for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. But 32-year-old DeAndre Hopkins catching passes from Will Levis is not the same DeAndre Hopkins of yesteryear. So, DeAndre Hopkins is a hard bench for me until we see it. Wasn't drafting a ton of them this offseason once stories about that knee started to circulate a little bit. So the one guy for me that jumps out at Tennessee is Tony Pollard. I mean, he looked like the significantly better back last week. Not only was he just dominating the opportunities and the touches, he had 4 times as many carries as Tajay Spears. He was also more efficient with those carries, averaged 4.4 yards after contact per attempt. Had a few breakaway runs, scored a touchdown. Tony Pollard just looks like that ankle injury that kind of limited him in the first half of last season. Looks like that is completely behind him now. He looks like the same explosive Tony Pollard that we saw in 2022.
Yeah, that tightrope stuff, man. I'm obviously not a doctor, as you can see, but I know a lot of Twitter doctors, and I've been meaning to ask. You know what? I'll probably hit up Edwin Porras after this. I'm a little worried about that tightrope surgery, and because you can come back really quick, but it seems like guys are slow coming off of it, right? And I watched Mark Andrews last week, and he looked sluggish. I'm nervous, bro. I'm nervous for Mark Andrews. I want to see him go out and look good, because I mean, we watched Tony Pollard, Darnell Mooney. It took him a while to get right after that ankle that surgery. It's kind of a new invasive surgery. So, but again, we got to get through these. I'm going to go ahead. We'll throw Pollard on there and consider him. So, folks, for those just joining us, thank you. Hit that like and subscribe. What we're doing here is we're pulling all the top matchups, the best guys, and then also some guys that might be a little bit different, because we're going to make an FFPC lineup. You start 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 4 flexes, and a tight end, and it's tight end premium. So the world is our oyster here. Seahawks, Patriots next game here. Patriots, obviously the David versus Goliath week 1. And maybe Seahawks only favored by 3.5 in this one. 38-point over under Kluge. So not a tremendous source of action, they're saying. On the Seahawks side, I mean, if Kenneth Walker wasn't banged up, I would say.
Kenneth Walker is nice, but I really like Charbonnet if Kenneth Walker can't play, because there's almost no competition for touches. You might see some DJ Dallas and Kenny McIntosh sprinkled in there, but it's going to be the Zach Charbonnet show. And this is a team that, like you said it yourself, it's got a low over-under. What that tells me is it's just going to be a slow game with a lot of running, and I can see Charbonnet, stumbling into 25 touches in this game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if Walker's a no-go, I'll sneak him in there into the lineup. Walker looked so good last week. And the Patriots, they traded Matthew Judon. Christian Barmore is dealing with blood clots. So, like, that front for the Patriots is pretty gross. Speaking of gross, I mean, I'll put Ramondre Stevenson on here, but we're not going to start.
The usage.
We wouldn't consider anybody else in this game.
No.
So try to avoid it. If you're in, a real league with you lost Ferguson or Njoku, Hunter Henry is a guy that could be on the menu, but not for us, not for this, because it's tight end premium, and we're not chasing touchdowns. We're chasing targets, right? So next game, Browns, Jaguars, 41.5-point over under. Browns are dogs in this one. Yeah. Anybody from the Browns, or are we staying away?
I mean, maybe Jerome Ford. He had like a 91% opportunity share or something like that. Like, he was dominating the touches, but still the Browns. And Deshaun Watson just he's cooked, man. I think this is the end for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, brutal, man. I mean, if he doesn't come out and do something this week, like they gotta make some sort of swap. Yeah, it would have been nice if they still had Flacco because they looked good with Flacco, right? I mean, it's just at a certain point you just got to pull the plug. So let's try and stay away from the Browns. On the Jaguar side, um, I mean, there's got to be somebody here, right? What are you thinking?
Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram both saw a change in usage that I wasn't crazy about in week one. Brian Thomas is in the mix now. We see Tank Bigsby carving out a role from Travis Etienne. So there's nobody here that I'm crazy about. If there was one dart that I might throw, it would probably be Brian Thomas Jr. So let's throw his name on the list. And while we're building the lineup, we can see if he could work him in. But this isn't one that I'm crazy about.
Me neither. Yeah, we got to use kicker and defense from somewhere. Maybe we can go with a defense from one of these teams. So I'll put a highlight on that. All right.
Ooh. In
Yeah.
that case, I do like Seattle's defense a little bit against New England. We can throw them up there.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, good. All right, next one, 49ers, Vikings. Jordan Mason is probably going to be the chalk for a lot of people, but I mean, Debo,
I
Ayuk,
like
Kittle.
Debo, yeah. And Debo gives
Yeah.
you that flexibility too at wide receiver. If we need another wide receiver, he saw some extra usage out of the backfield. We got to
Mhm.
remember, it was a couple years ago, so people have short memories. But pre CMC in San Francisco, Debo Samuel in that coveted Debo role was the wide receiver 2 behind only Cooper Kupp, who had a record breaking season. So if Debo goes back into that hybrid role where he is their wide receiver 1 and their RB 1, I think with Mason there, he's a little bit bigger of a threat than Elijah Mitchell was back then, but we can see some really big spike weeks from Debo.
Yes, and that's where you and I differ often is that you have a higher tolerance for down weeks than I do. Like
Yes.
you're so and you know what? That's a way to play. If your roster's built for it, then you can handle the down weeks for Debo and Kittle and all that. It drives me nuts, man. It drives me insane. But this is a weekly lineup. So Debo is the exact kind of guy we want to use. Like we need to be it's us against 30
Yeah, I
people,
was gonna say, how many people are you playing against?
30. So this one's
Yeah, so you
30.
gotta swing for the high end range of outcomes in a field like this.
Yeah, and everybody can use anybody they want. You know what I
Right.
mean? So you gotta go for those high end
And I
outcomes.
probably should have asked before, but is this PPR or standard scoring?
It's FFPC is PPR and tight end
And tight
premium.
end premium. All
Yeah.
right. In that case, I
So
think I preferred Debo to Mason because Mason was great on the ground, but didn't pull any usage in the passing game. Debo's going to get some of those goal line looks in the run game. He's still going to pull targets as well. So I think in PPR scoring, I'd prefer Debo ahead of Mason.
yeah, I'm with you on that. And again, we like Kittle, but in tight end premium, like Kittle's the guy that rips off chunk plays and scores touchdowns versus at this stage, he doesn't really go out and get like 12 targets. Like that's kind of what we're
Right.
looking for out of a tight end. So we don't got to use Kittle here. Use them on some of the other sites. Vikings coming back the other way. There's only one name, right?
Yeah, Justin Jefferson. I think that's pretty simple, especially with Jordan Addison looking like he's not going to play this week. Justin Jefferson might see himself a 21 target game like Cooper Kupp just did.
Yeah, and the thing with this is that you do have to lean into matchups. Last year, with a few of the weeks, because I'll do whatever the guest wants to do for the most part. Last year, a few of the weeks we came on, and some of the guests are so excited by the format they've never played before, and they're like, "Wait a second, we could start CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase." I'm like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely." And we would just start the chalk lineup sometimes and just down the board, just names, not even worried about matchups. You know what I mean? Our lineup would be Christian McCaffrey, and you know what I mean. And then you find out that when you're splitting hairs at the very top, you do have to care about matchups, right? So you can't just put in the top names every single week and expect to win. You got to lean into some narratives. So a guy like Justin Jefferson, and I thought Sam Darnold looked good. We didn't really have to see much of him,
Yeah.
but and Sam Darnold, this is a technically revenge game, right? I mean, I
I
guess.
guess. Yeah. We made that joke on the show earlier when somebody said Darnold revenge game. I was like,
It's
Darnold's at the point where like he plays, a third of his games are going to be revenge games at this
yeah.
point.
Not to mention they gave him another chance. He loves those guys. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
he doesn't want revenge. Like there was
Right.
Shanahan was the reason he got a job. So
Yeah. He's the reason. Yeah. The 49ers are the reason he's in Minnesota right now. Learn that system. And yeah.
yeah. Folks in the chat, definitely hit that like and subscribe. Also, if you could do us a favor and just try and throw questions out there when we're talking about the players that are involved, that'll help us with the flow because we got to get through all these games. For this one, I'm going Godwin over Tank Dell personally in PPR.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for instance, for that Tank Dell question, try and hang on until we get to that game. All right. Next game here Colts, Green Bay.
Finally
So-
got our quarterback, Malik Willis.
Dude, don't you joke about that because I think I have to start him. You don't. I know it's super flex.
Oh,
you
we're
don't
all in
have-
dynasty leagues where we're still holding on to Malik Willis, right? I'm not the only one.
Dude, I lost Jordan Love in the Scott Fishbowl, and I'm looking around
Ooh.
at 11. I got to start 11 players, and I'm looking around at some of my other guys, and I'm like, man, I don't know. I might just have to start him.
Yeah, those Scott Fishbowl lineups get crazy quick. This week, I'm like, all right, Darius Davis and DeAndre Carter, welcome to the lineup.
Just get on in there. I'm already starting 5 tight ends, so I'm like, I'm just looking at it. I'm like, my goodness, what has happened?
But I think we got to go Richardson here. You made the Malik Willis joke, but I think Richardson, I've got him as my QB3 on the week. And a lot of these other good quarterbacks, I mean, we already saw Josh Allen play last night, so he's not on the board. A lot of these other guys like the Mahomes and the Hurts, there's other players we want to target there. Is it crazy to think that, like, out of the 30 teams in this pod that you're playing against, that like 28 of them might have Anthony Richardson for that exact reason?
Yeah, they might. And the thing is, you have to do that though. Like sometimes you just got to go with the good chalk because the top, usually the top like 10 teams have the quarterback or the
Right.
matchup. So
We could try to differentiate here, but man, what we like Anthony Richardson putting up 30 points on 9 passes is just absolutely bonkers.
And the other thing you run into is a lot of the good quarterbacks. There's also good starts from the team as well. So it's you sit there and you're like Mahomes versus Kelsey. I would rarely start Mahomes because it's like, well, we'll just use
starting Michael
FanDuel
Pittman
guy.
over Anthony Richardson.
Not gonna do it. That throw last week from Richardson,
Woo-hoo.
bonkers, dude.
I don't think most starting quarterbacks could make that throw like with a crow hop, and he did it like fading away with a hand in his face.
Stumbling, yeah. What the heck, dude? I bet he can make that throw just waking up and getting out of bed in the morning. That was
crazy.
crazy throw. So on the Packers side, I mean, let's just stay away from it probably, because like Josh Jacobs
is banged up too. He's got a back issue right now. Yeah.
I mean, in the chat mentioned Jaden Reed. I mean, manufactured touch players are probably the least quarterback dependent, screens and end arounds, but like there's just too many good wide receivers. It's like, are we going to start Jaden Reed or are we going to start Garrett?
Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, like those are the questions we're going to run into. So let's just skip them for now. Next game.
I do like Indiana's defense too. They're another one that I'm firing up in a lot of leagues this week, going up against Green Bay and Malik Willis.
Well, let's put them in there because we might at the end of the day be like, let's start Kyler Murray or somebody, So okay, next matchup here we got Chargers and Panthers. 39 point over under, which is to be expected for the ground and pound Harbaugh show and whatever the Panthers are.
I also like the Chargers defense this week quite a bit.
Good. Let's put them so we give defense options because usually we just panic at the end of the show and throw whoever. So that's kind of how that works.
Don't get me wrong, man. Like J.K. Dobbins looked fantastic last week, and I'm eating the cheese. I've got him inside my top 20 running backs this week, but it's also J.K. Dobbins, and I have fallen for this trap many a time.
Too many times, yeah. And again, it's not like he got every carry. Gus still got some. It's just he got 10 carries. Dobbins only got 10 carries.
It was a 50-50 split. Like I think Edwards had 10 carries too, right?
Right. Dobbins got 10 carries, and he looked great on them. But yeah, they still split it. So what are you going to do? Next matchup here, we don't need any Panthers. I don't want to talk about the Panthers. I don't want to think about them. Giants and Washington. So this one's surprisingly a better game than the one we were just talking about for fantasy. It's a 1-point spread, 44-point over under. Let's start with the Giants. I mean,
Neighbors is the guy by default. Yeah. Sounds like he was cleared of that injury that popped up and scared everyone on the practice report yesterday. Said it was no big deal, and he's cleared to play. But man, this is just, Alfredo Brown. I got to give it to him. My co-host on the Football Guys Fantasy Football Show, he was fading Neighbors hard this offseason, just saying like, doesn't matter how talented you are. Like if you're on a bad team with a bad quarterback play, look at Garrett Wilson. Like Garrett Wilson has been a boomer bust wide receiver 3 his first 2 years in the league. And that unfortunately looks like it could be the plight for Malik Neighbors. So there's going to be some boom games here and there, but it's really tough to rely on him.
Look at that entire class, dude. Like
I know.
Drake London. So the leader in touchdowns for wide receivers from that class is Christian Watson. Because I swear to God.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Because Drake London and Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave haven't had a quarterback. It's like, dude, scoring only happens with good teams.
The JMO class too?
Yeah. Yes. It's been crazy, man. He's been hurt. It's just been wild. Question for this one, real quick. Need two of, and again, we're talking about the Commanders. So he mentions McLaurin. That's how you do it if you're in the chat. Catch us while we're talking about this particular game. So it needs two of Zay Flowers, Christian Kirk, McLaurin, Watson, or a healthy Addison.
I don't think Addison's going to be healthy. Hasn't practiced yet this week. And even if he is, I'd be a little bit concerned about that one. I'm going Zay Flowers is the easy choice here.
Yes.
And it's tough. I mean, Jaden Daniels did not look good as a passer, but I think I'm still going with McLaurin over Kirk.
We're going McLaurin because Kirk and Ingram kind of split out of the slot, which is not good for either. We need one of those guys to go away. So yeah, what are you gonna do? Let's see. Do we have any other questions real quick to hit before we go to the next one? Here's Abraham's got one. Should I trade Kenneth Walker and Ridley for ETN and Pittman?
No.
Kenneth Walker looks so good.
He looks like a top 5 running back. Like he could genuinely be top 5 when healthy. ETN splitting touches with Bigsby. Pittman has a quarterback issue. When it's like this, where the value is like kind of close, what I like to defer to is which side has the best player, and Kenneth Walker is by far the best player out of these 4.
Yeah, and Ryan Grubbs didn't lie to us. He said that he thought Kenneth Walker was an explosive pass catcher, and he got more work in all phases of the game. And Nolan, good point. Malik Neighbors is dealing with a little bit of a knee, so that
was clear though. I just mentioned that yesterday. He popped up on the injury report yesterday. They talked to Dable this morning. He's logging a full practice today, and they said that there's no concern. He's cleared to play.
Yeah. For Brad, if Jacobs is like a full go, then I'd consider him. But if there's any sort of tag, you might as well just start Stevenson. Right?
Yeah. Healthy Jacobs is a top 10 running back every week.
Yeah. JaMychal Hasty and Antonio Gibson both missed practice yesterday. So Patriots, that's the whole depth chart. They got 3 guys, so if those guys are both banged up, there's really no other option.
Do you know how many rushing yards Ramondre Stevenson had? I want to say 113.
Yeah.
And 109 of those, I believe. I'm pulling these numbers out. I think it was 109 out of 113 of his rushing yards came after contact. I mean, just mind blowing.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. It was all but 3. Yeah, he's just a moose. And again, that was against like the Bengals O-line. Like they have Trey Hendrickson, they have Sam Hubbard, and they also added Sheldon Rankins this offseason. Like that's not even a bad front. Like that's actually a good front now. It's their secondary that's bad, and it didn't really matter. So definitely a good player, man. His dynasty.
Did we pick anyone from Washington? Sorry, I just
I wrote Jaden Daniels on the sheet. I wrote it on the sheet without even mentioning it.
That's
I just assumed.
Brian Robinson, though, man, he looked really, really, really good. I think
he did, dude.
A lot of running backs to choose from, but Brian Robinson looked great.
Right, Brian Robinson. That's a dynasty buy, I think, because it's like Eckler. Like they split the snaps 30 to 33. But Eckler really didn't feel like he was out there much. He made a couple
pass pro.
Plays, pass pro. Yeah. The problem is
4 targets, I believe.
Yeah, you got the mobile. It's like it's almost like in Dynasty, you want to treat it more like Madden ratings, right? Where it's like we want the good players, and eventually the window will open for them to be awesome. But in redraft, I look at it and I'm like, okay, we got 2 guys splitting on a bad offense with a mobile quarterback. Yeah, I wish I could just pick these players up and move them to another team. Sometimes,
Yeah. Put Brian Robinson somewhere
like, dude, if
doesn't have a mobile quarterback.
If you took Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler and those were the 2 Lions running backs, I'd like them both. I'd love them both. You know what I mean? It's like I think Jared Goff ran for 17 yards last season. Like that's the situation you want. You don't want this young superhero freaking dunking over the field goal post. You know what I mean? It's like.
And my thought process was that they brought Eckler in to kind of coach Jaden Daniels up. Like, hey, we've got this guy who is a pass catching machine. Like, hit him in the flat, because that's exactly what they did with Kyler Murray in Arizona. Like, he was a guy who never checked down in college, and then his rookie season, they just got him to feed David Johnson in the flat, and he avoided the big hits. And I thought that's kind of what the idea was, bringing in Austin Eckler. But you watch the game, and Jaden Daniels. He's not going to check down. He's just going to take off and run any chance he gets.
Go block.
Which is great for fantasy.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you go block somebody. I got this. Like, and the thing is, I mean, for the long term for Brian Robinson, bringing Eckler in is good, right? Yeah. Because the running back coach is Anthony Lynn. Obviously, Austin Eckler knows the system, and so you have 2 coaches. You know what I mean? So for the long term, it's good. For the short term, I don't like it. Next matchup here: Raiders, Ravens. The Raiders are in a whole heap of trouble this week. But I mean, can you? What's the spread? Is like 9.5, 10, and it's only a 40-point over under. Which so the implied point total for the Raiders is none. We're not going to start Zamir White.
Am I crazy to say Brock Bowers?
I kind of, dude,
premium. Like he could pull 8 to 12 targets on any given week. Like they're manufacturing touches for him. They're going to get him the ball on screens and slants. And like, we talk about these slot players, like we were saying with Jaden Reed earlier, like that's kind of the usage that Brock Bowers is going to be getting in this offense.
I think he already deserves more targets than Jacoby Myers. And that all he has to be is a top 2 target on the team.
I made a trade yesterday. Let me throw this one out to you, Coop. In a redraft league, I gave up Hawkinson and Jalen Wright, and I got Brock Bowers in return. There was no going back and forth or anything. I just sent it and it got accepted, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about that one.
That's nuts, dude. Hawkinson, man. The thing is, I think Hawkinson's a great player, but he's hurt. He's been coming off an ACL. And Kirk Cousins is maybe the only guy that could support 3 guys in fantasy football.
Right.
Like Aaron Jones catches passes. Justin Jefferson needs 1 million targets. Jordan Addison's a problem. If Jordan Addison was on the Raiders, then I'd be a little more hesitant. But the reason we say top 2 target is the number 1 all-time tight end season came from Rob Gronkowski in a year that Wes Welker got 173 targets. There's room for 2 guys. But the problem you run into with the 3rd guy is that over the last 3 years, there's been 1 team to have 3 players all get 100 targets per Pro Football Focus. And it was the Vikings, but the asterisk is TJ Hawkinson got traded to the team mid-season. After he got traded to the team. Right. Thielen wasn't on pace from that point. So you have to go back basically 3 years. And the teams that do it aren't even the teams you think would do it, Kluge. One of the last few teams to do it was Washington, and it was Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, and J.D. McKissick.
McKissick. There you go. I thought it was going to be Curtis Samuel that year.
Not even. Curtis Samuel was on one when it was the Panthers did it with Curtis Samuel and
CMC. And DJ Moore, Steve Smith, one of them.
He was DJ Moore. Yeah. It's like very strange teams. One year it was Odell Beckham Jr., Saquon Barkley. And Odell Beckham Jr. got hurt after 10 games, but he already had 100 targets through 10 games. So Sterling Shepard just got peppered with meaningless targets.
My baby boy.
I know. I miss him, dude. 12 targets a game when he was healthy. Anyway, we got to get back to this slate. What are we talking about?
We're getting way off the rails here.
We were on track. We were on pace. I screwed it up. I took us off. So Bowers will consider. Devontae Adams is a no.
Yeah, Devontae Adams is a no for me.
All right, Ravens. We probably got to have a Raven. Lamar. Not even Lamar. Though. Yeah. Is it going to be the conditions for him to go crazy though?
See, I don't think they're going to be in a position where they're going to need to throw all that much. So I'm not crazy. This might be a Derrick Henry game. Even coming off, this is Derrick Henry didn't get the usage we wanted to see in week 1, and then John Harbaugh comes out with that scary quote saying, like, no, this isn't the same Derrick Henry of years past. Like, he's already past that point in his career. Like, we're using. So I think there's going to be a big fear of Derrick Henry this week. But if they're up 2 scores at halftime, they're just going to give Derrick Henry 20 touches in the second half.
We have not named many slam dunk running backs yet that we're definitely going to use. So I think he's got to be in consideration here. Real quick question before we move on here. Who would you pick? Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, or Rashee Rice? Pick one.
Cooper Kupp easily. Cooper Kupp is my wide receiver 3 on the week.
I always look around myself and I say, did anybody get 20 targets last week? And if they did, you
got to start them.
Yeah, that's the guy I'm going to go with.
Yeah.
Next matchup here. Hey, these 4 o'clock, this is still a 1 o'clock game, but the 4 o'clock games are where we're going to find a lot of our players, I think. 1 o'clock, Saints, Cowboys. 46.5 point over under. Cowboys favored by 6. CeeDee Lamb's going to get Marshawn Lattimore. Does that stop us, though?
No, CeeDee Lamb is still definitely the guy from Dallas, and I think Alvin Kamara is the guy from New Orleans. This is a game where they're projected
you said that.
Play from behind. This is a guy per game RB5 last year, and people have just written him off for dead. Like, he is still a lead back. Like, he hasn't lost a step by my assessment at all. He still looks like the same Alvin Kamara from 4 years ago, still getting the same usage, but people are like, but he's getting up there in age, so we're going to fade him, and I don't see it.
My favorite part, Kluge, this offseason, everybody fading Kamara. He's like RB 16, 17 ADP. All
Getting
the
him in like
rank.
round 6 and 7 on
Right.
Underdog.
And then you go to the week 1 rankings over on Fantasy Pros or whatever, and there's Kamara ranked at like 8, like
Yeah.
8 or 9. Everybody, when they had to do their PPR rankings, like all this speculation and we're making upside picks and all this, and then when it's time to do the rankings, everyone's like, well, yeah, of course you can start out with Kamara.
I mean,
So,
it was the same thing with Cooper Kupp and Rashi Rice. Like, these guys were falling deep in drafts, and then week 1 rankings come out, and it's like, yeah, Cooper Kupp's a top 10 guy, Rashi Rice is a top 12 guy. It's like, well, why weren't we drafting them like this then?
Exactly. It's like then it comes well, people are like, oh, well, he's gonna get hurt or this or that. It's like when push comes to shove and it's time to set lineups, he's in there. So he
Yeah.
might be in there for us here. Okay, 4 o'clock games here. Real quick one. Real quick question.
Rams are pretty easy, I think.
Yeah. Deep league, Calvin Ridley or Brian Thomas.
I think I'm going Brian Thomas here, man. I am scared by what I saw from Will Levis.
Yeah, it's bad.
Can I go off on like a quick 30-second tangent on Will Levis real quickly?
Do it.
I'll keep it quick. But like last year, I think we saw Will Levis come out in his first start and had a great 4-touchdown game, and everyone was just like so excited about Will Levis. And then the next time we saw him was in a primetime Thursday night game where they took down the Miami Dolphins. If you look at all of his other games outside of his first start and that primetime upset against Miami, he had 2 touchdowns over 7 games. Like, he was horrendous in his other games. So people who are kind of, I don't want to say casual because I think that has like a negative connotation to it, but people who just watch primetime games and whatever, like, they think that Will Levis is really good because that's what we saw in his first start in his Thursday night game. But you go back and watch all of his other games, Will Levis isn't very good. And what I saw last week is that he didn't take any sort of step forward.
He's still a project, man. He's like Jay Cutler. Like his fun, and I hope that he can get it together, but his fundamentals are pretty bad. And again, like so were mine when I played quarterback. That was terrible, and I never worked on it. And guess what? Like I'm not. That's why I'm here talking about football. And like when you watch Jay Cutler, always throwing off his back. You're out there, man, Bears fan. Like
I got
always
this
throwing
helmet signed by Jay Cutler right here.
Like
Yeah.
he could brute force make things happen with his arms, but he was always throwing off his back foot, sloppy. And you know what? To be the best, you gotta work at it. So hopefully Will Levis does that, but I just see a lot of Jay Cutler out there.
Yeah. The bad side of Jay
The bad
Cutler.
side, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Not,
think he
not
could
Denver
develop.
Jay Cutler. We're talking like late career Chicago Jay Cutler.
He could develop into full Jay Cutler, and you know what I mean, and have some fantasy relevance and never win a Super Bowl. I mean, I'd be fine with that. I'm not a Titans fan. Okay, Rams, Cardinals. Who is the obvious Ram?
Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, it's got to be. Which good usage for Kyron Williams, but I mean, you just can't go away from Cooper Kupp. So
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp's locked in. I'm gonna just highlight him and make sure we remember to put him right in the lineup first. Cardinals.
I think we go Kyler. The only other quarterback we've talked about so far, we talked about Jaden Daniels, we talked about Anthony Richardson, but Kyler is the one that really jumps out to me here.
Yeah, I think this is easy from that standpoint of like if we don't start Kyler, we can just start Trey McBride, tight end premium.
That too. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, we can start tight ends in the flex if we really like to, but we'll play it by ear. Steelers, Broncos. You ready for this? You seen the over under? You seen the over under for this one? 36.5.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's gross, bro. And you got Fields traveling to Mile High. I don't know. We can't do it.
Last time Justin Fields played Denver, he passed for 350 yards. Just saying.
We can't do it, dude.
He had 15 rushing attempts last week. 15 designed rushing attempts last week.
We can't do it. Chat, please. Tell Kluge no.
Justin Fields is my QB7 on the week. I've got him ahead of Kyler Murray.
If the chat wants it, we'll consider it. If the chat wants it, we'll consider it, but I can't do it.
He's the only guy I would even remotely think about in this.
I know.
Not even this team, this matchup.
Yeah, because the Broncos, no. Can't start on the running backs, can't start Sutton. Yeah, we don't even need to talk about the Broncos. Next one here. Let's get a little Cincinnati, Kansas City action. 47.5 point over under. Chiefs are favored by 6. This has historically been an incredible matchup. Burrow has won 3 out of 5, though last year the Chiefs won both the matchups. They won the regular season, they won in the playoffs. Let's start on the Bengals side.
I'm going to go with Jamar Chase. Quiet week last week, but he missed all of the preseason and hardly practiced. I'm still going with Jamar Chase here, especially with T. Higgins out. They're just going to have to get the ball to him. Look at that,
You-
chat.
You being in the chat does not count. That does not count at all, dude. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little worried that again, I think there's a way to navigate this and be somewhere in between the idea that Joe Burrow will never be the same again, and Joe Burrow possibly is not back to 100% after having ligament
Yeah.
surgery on his wrist, right? I've done a little, a little Google searching, and this is like this basically the ligament that he had replaced, the SL. I don't know how to say the full word, is kind of like the ACL of your wrist, where it can be repaired in full and you get back to normal, but it can take time. And we're talking about fine. I mean, throwing a NFL caliber pass is about as fine of a motor skill as you can have. So there's a difference between being able to do it and being able to do it at a level where you can get the ball to Jamar Chase with Trent McDuffie on. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
This isn't
So
just an offensive lineman putting a club over his hand and still playing the game. Like, this still takes finesse to throw the ball, right?
exactly, dude. There's a reason that we've seen linemen and sometimes even tight ends come back from torn patellar tendons, but we almost never see running backs or wide receivers, Cadillac Williams, Dave. It's just it's a different. It's when it's the thing you do the best, right? It's like this injury for you or me, we'd get over it, but if we played the violin, we'd probably be in trouble,
Right.
right? So I'm going to kind of fade the Bengals until I see them look
Yeah.
really.
And I think people just kind of get this idea that, like, well, player X has been cleared to play, so they're going to be 100% because that's how it is, like on Madden, right? Like, a player
Right,
is healthy and then you put him in and you get 100%. But the reality is, like, there's mental hurdles that you have to get over. Like, you might not be 100%. Like, I've had serious injuries before where, like, something as simple, like after my shoulder surgery, something as simple as like hanging on a bar, like, I mentally just couldn't do it because, like,
right,
I'm like, anytime I've done this in the past, my shoulder would pop out. And there's things like that where, you know, people and I've heard Stefania Bell talk about this a lot. Carson Palmer was the example that she used, that like after Carson Palmer's knee injury, he was just like scared. Every time he dropped back, he said he would just see this like flood of orange just like swallowing him up. And he said it took him like a full year to get over the mental hurdles of playing the quarterback position.
right. Yeah, I mean that's something you gotta keep in mind that again like guys like Chad Pennington did have like serious like he would just couldn't throw the same. So something to keep in mind. Umberto has a question on this game: Cincinnati, Kansas. I'm leaning towards benching Moss as RB2. He's got Zeke in there already. Tank Bigsby and Ty Chandler. I think I'd still probably just start Moss. What do you think, man?
I like Zeke. Like, I'm one of the weirdos that has been on Zeke all offseason and talked
Right.
about him at the start of the week last week, but I'm still going Moss ahead of him, man. Like, Moss is in the Joe Mixon role. There is almost no Chase Brown usage. It seems like Zach Moss is just going to be eaten in this offense.
It turns out that Zach Moss and Tony Pollard are the starting running backs for their teams.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
all the speculation, it looks like they're just going to use the starters for the most part.
You know what? I'm
Uh,
calling it right now. We're going to hear all season about how, like, Zach Moss sucks. His efficiency metrics are terrible. Sell Zach Moss, get Chase Brown. And it's like, we just did that for 6 years with Joe Mixon in
right,
Cincinnati, and he just kept churning out RB1 season after RB1 season. So I don't care what Zach Moss efficiency metrics are. If he's the starter, and he's going to score touchdowns and he's going to get volume.
right. Third and a 1 yard run from the 1 yard line for a touchdown is a low efficiency play. And
Yes.
but when you're the running back for a good team, those plays happen.
Yep.
Is Alan Lazard a good pickup?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't. And like, I have been the Elm Lazard guy for a long time, and I know the 2 touchdowns, but I mean, he only got, if I recall, I think it was only 2 targets from Aaron Rodgers, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
one of
like
them was on a busted play.
it's like the James Jones. He can throw touchdowns to anybody. If you push a shopping cart, he could throw a touchdown in there. It's just where and when. Like this week, it'll probably be Tyler Conklin scored 2 stupid touchdowns. So I just can't trust that.
Yeah.
Chase the targets, not the touchdowns. Brandon Cooks or George Pickens. I like Brandon Cooks a lot. George Pickens is George Pickens though. George Pickens gets Patrick Surtain death this week. So
Mhm.
I don't know. Do you think?
That's why I'm looking right now. I have Cooks a couple spots ahead of Pickens. I'll take
Good.
Cooks catching passes from Dak over George Pickens
Yeah.
catching passes from Fields.
Daz wants one more. We'll do one more and we'll get back to this stuff. Sutton or Swift?
Sutton for me. 12
Yeah,
targets last week, and they were terrible, but 12 targets.
12
Kinda
targets
I
is
made
12
the joke,
targets.
I don't know if you saw on Twitter, Cooper, I said, I had hoped, I talked about a lot this offseason that, there it seemed like Sean Payton was trying to recreate the offense that he had success with in New Orleans, and I said, Courtland Sutton, he's in that Marquez Colston and that Michael Thomas role.
Thomas.
The only problem is, Bo Nix isn't Drew Brees.
Right. Yeah. New slant boy just dropped. But yeah,
Yeah.
well, hey, you know what? Maybe someday. Goff or Kyler PPR?
Kyler,
Kyler. Yep. Okay.
no question.
So we have to pick a Kansas City Chief, I believe, in a matchup such as this.
I mean, I understand Kelsey because it's tight end premium. There's other good tight end options out there, but Rashee Rice, man, I've got him as my wide receiver 7 on the week.
Rashi, real nice Rice. I think that
I don't know
might
if you
be the
saw, he
one.
actually runs his slants farther downfield now. Last year, they were all 5-yard slants. This
Right.
year, he's running 8-yard slants and 12-yard slants. I mean, really just developing as a versatile
Yeah.
guy.
I don't even care. I don't even care.
It works, though.
The-
That's the thing. It works.
right.
Like, they have guys that can win outside the numbers, deep downfield, and then all that does is open up the middle of the field. And, like, you see Rashee Rice just play after play, just streaking down the middle of the field with nobody touching him.
The Chiefs last year led the league with 54 wide receiver screens, right? And if you add wide receiver plus tight end screens, they ran 17 more than any other team. And guess what? They won the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
So you can't sit back and say it's bad if it keeps working. It's until people figure out how to stop it, they're just going to keep doing it. And I did see shout out to Wiz, a local guy to this area. He's over on he's at Undroppables.
Yeah.
He posted some interesting stats regarding what the Patriots did last week with cover 2 and the high safeties, and what the Bengals have been doing, and they have Geno Stone now. That suggests that the Bengals will probably run a lot of 2 high safety, and Rashee Rice will get 1,000,000 targets underneath. There you go.
It's gonna be the story
Uh,
all year. Like, you can't play anything but 2 high safety on Patrick Mahomes. Once they can get Marquise Brown back and they run 11 personnel where it's just Marquise Brown, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, and a running back, they're gonna be unstoppable. Like, I don't know how any team, like, I don't wanna jinx it. Crazy things can happen, but, like, I don't know how the Chiefs don't win a Super Bowl again this year.
yeah. Why do the Bills give them Xavier Worthy? I will never understand. It's
Give that
like,
Mahomes too.
why do teams do that though? Like remember the Ravens traded them Orlando Brown? It's
Uh-huh.
like, why are you helping them? Do you know what I mean? The Patriots traded them the pick to take Trent McDuffie when the Patriots needed a cornerback. I'm like, what are we doing, dude? What is this league doing? Stop helping them. Okay, enough.
And if, there's a lot of career left for both of those guys, but seeing Keon Coleman through his first games and seeing what Xavier Worthy did, Bills
I
fans
know.
not feeling great.
I know. Okay, we got the night game here. What the heck is going on over there with your Bears, bro? What? No Keenan Allen, no Rome Odunze in practice.
Yeah, it's hard out here, man. Everybody all off season. Actually, Luke, I see him in the chat. He was at the SFB draft. It was kind of like a joke. My wife and I were laughing coming home from the draft. Everybody was like, "Man, you got to be so excited about the Bears this year, huh?" It's like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope. I've been a Bears fan a long time. This franchise has spent 34 years kicking my teeth in. I'm not going to get excited about anything. Like, if they start winning, cool. Then I'll start sipping the Kool-Aid. But like, I refuse in the offseason. This team is cursed, man. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, you gotta. I think Caleb Williams is a good player, but I mean, you can't expect him to pop right away. And then now that he doesn't have the weapons, it's even tougher. So we'll see. Gerald Everett, wide receiver 2 for the Bears this week. Very exciting. So maybe we'll consider DJ Moore, though. I mean,
DJ Moore is probably going to pull 12 plus targets. First
it's
of all, I'll
fine.
say, like, I don't think Caleb Williams sucks. I think last
I don't think
week
so.
was, first full game. It was idiotic of the Bears coaching staff to bench him in the final preseason game and limit his snaps the way that they did in the preseason. I worry because we've seen the development ruined on so many promising quarterbacks, whether it was Justin Fields, Mitch Trubisky, Jay Cutler, Cade McNown, Rex Grossman. I can go so far back. Like, that's,
Right.
they ruin developmental projects, and I hope that they don't do the same to Caleb Williams. But those preseason snaps are important, and just like give him veteran treatment going into his rookie year, and then see him come out the way that he did. I'm concerned.
Right. Like Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, the like We've seen it. We've seen guys come back from it, but it's like
Mhm.
if you have the Jets, we're letting Geno Smith get punched in the face by his teammates in the locker room. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you expect that guy to succeed? So I don't know, man. On the and again, you got to keep in mind, you know who has the record for uh, all-time record for interceptions thrown as a rookie, right?
Peyton Manning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So rookies are going to play like rookies. It's
Yeah.
okay. We're
Yeah.
going to be all right. On the other side, we probably should consider a Houston Texan here.
Ooh,
Jalen Johnson, not a good matchup for Nico, though, right? Jalen
I was
Johnson
gonna say Jalen
so
Johnson's
good,
gonna
dude.
have a tough matchup, and dude,
He's so good.
Tank Dell had himself a good game. The box score isn't going to show it, but I went back. I just shared a clip from the All-22 when I was watching. When you watch the broadcast, there was one play where it looked like Tank Dell was blanketed in the end zone on a deep shot in the middle. And then when you watch the All-22, you see that Tank Dell was wide open. Like he beat his man. He was streaking to the end zone. And for some reason, CJ Stroud threw a dart rather than putting a little air under it and kind of letting Dell get underneath it. He flattened the ball out. Defender was able to
Mhm.
make a play on it. And then there was another play where Tank Dell ran an out route about 30 yards downfield and was wide open on on an island, and CJ Stroud skipped it into him. So it was a weird game from CJ Stroud in week one. Like he did not
Very
look like the
weird.
CJ Stroud we saw last year, but Tank Dell was this close to having another 80 yards and a touchdown in his day. So I'm going back to the well. Talked about Tank Dell earlier this week as a guy that I'm trying to buy low in leagues if anybody's starting to panic at all.
I was fading him this offseason, and then the Texans cut every fullback on the roster except British Brooks, who only played special teams. They went away from the fullback completely. That was my concern for Tank Dell. If they're just going
Yeah,
to
because
use
they're just going to use Tank Dell as a blocker when they get to the goal line, right? It worked so well for him last year.
And what if they're just going to use 3 wide receivers every play? Then I
Yeah,
actually moved Tank back up a little bit because I
as
was
they should.
worried. Yeah, he did come out for some 2 wide receiver sets, but they didn't run a whole lot of them. So
Right.
I'm not too worried about it. So yeah, we'll consider Tank there. Or Joe Mixon's still on the menu too, so I'm gonna throw him in there
Joe
too.
Mixon, man, I think I got him as my RB6 this week.
Love him.
Another
We might
guy
have to
just like
go.
just like Kamara, man. Well, yeah, I would love to see an old man running back room. Like if we just roll out Kamara and Mixon on this roster, I'd love it.
Let's do it and win. That's
Yeah,
a beautiful
trigger all
thing.
the dynasty heads.
Jerry, Cole Kmet only ran 12 routes to 21 for Gerald Everett. We warned Shane Waldron.
Yep.
He doesn't care how much money Ryan Pace spent on Cole Kmet. He likes his rotations, man. Shane Waldron's been doing that going back to when he was the Rams tight end coach in 2017, which was the year they drafted Gerald Everett. He thinks he thinks that because he was a tight end coach at some point, he's got some magic formula for rotating them. I don't know, maybe he does, but it's not good
I
for
think he's just
fantasy
got a
football.
crush on Gerald Everett.
I think that might be the case, dude. I truly think that might be the case. But whatever it is, it's not good for fantasy football. There have been historically some coaches and coordinators that have been terrible for tight ends. Adam Gase, the absolute worst ever, has never had a tight end block on less than 20% of pass plays, which is just an insane way to operate. But I don't know. All right, last game here, and then we'll make our lineup. We gotta have some guys from this game. Eagles, Falcons, Monday Night Football, 47.5 point over under. Eagles are favored by 6.5. Let's start with the Falcons. Do we need a Falcon? Do we trust Kirk Cousins? There are options.
So we're looking
I mean, there's 3 guys: Drake London, Bijan
Bijan.
Robinson, Kyle Pitts.
It would be Bijan or Pitts for me, man. I'm not sipping the Drake London Kool-Aid. I'm really not. I don't
Yeah,
want to get off on too much of a tangent there. I think he's a very good wide receiver too.
I got to see Kirk Cousins look like a real quarterback and not just like
Yeah, I
a
think Bijan is probably the best bet here. He got bottled up last week, but the opportunity was there.
right. And then on the Eagles side, boy, is
So
there
many options.
anybody you want? Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown,
Saquon, Devonta.
Devonta Smith, because AJ Brown's going to get AJ Terrell here. I'll get him out, but
AJ Terrell's injured, I believe.
is he out?
I don't know if he's out, but I think he was on the injury report, unless I'm completely wrong. In which case,
Oh, the
pulling up their injury report now.
Falcons going to get crushed.
No, I made that up. No, AJ Terrell is not
Good.
injured. I don't know why I thought it was. I was going through injury reports.
Oh,
this
you know what it
morning,
was?
I thought AJ Terrell was on
It
there.
was maybe you saw Terrell Bernard for the Terrell Bernard boost for the news. I was gonna say Falcons. I'm about to bet on the Falcons to lose by 20. Either way, I think let's just get in and we'll let the lineup sort that out. Right. So let's get it going. here's what we're doing, folks. We just pulled all the must-start best matchups from these games. I got them all written down here. I let Kluge kind of run the show on that. And now we're going to find ways to get them into an FFPC lineup. Again, if you want to play over here, this format is so much fun. Use promo code Coop. They'll give you $25 when you deposit $35 or more over at FFPC. You can scan the QR code there and you can play. Basically, the idea is this. You can start anyone you want. No salaries, no draft. They just can't have two guys from the same team. So we had a few guys that we highlighted that we definitely wanted to get in there. Number one was Cooper Kupp. So I'm going to put him in right now. Is there anybody else where going through you were like, we got to play this guy?
I don't know if we have to play him, but I do like Anthony Richardson just for the fact that there's nobody else from the Colts that we want to play. So, when you start looking at some of the other quarterbacks that we talked about, like we said, like Mahomes, there's a lot of guys in the Chiefs we want to play, and Jalen Hurts, there's a lot of guys in the Eagles we want to play. So this might be a little bit chalky, but Anthony Richardson, nobody else on that team that I'm interested in, and he could easily lead the team.
And we can always go back and say, say we get to the end and we're like, wow, we didn't use an Eagle. We could always just put in Jalen Hurts. It's not like it's locked.
Will this flag that for us? Like if we tried putting in Pittman right now, it would say like you can't do that.
It pulls him out. Yeah, it's great.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Awesome.
And
Kamara,
then also,
I love that.
Yeah, I just remembered that we were talking him up big time. So we're gonna get Kamara in there. All right. So let's go back to the beginning here. And let's talk with let's start with the high over under games, right? But we got to get some guys in from. So we have to get guys in from the Buccaneers and the Lions game. I think we need somebody from each side.
Godwin and Amon-Ra. I think that's where we go out of that game.
Yep. That's who. I mean, I
didn't realize we had 4 flexes. That gives us so much flexibility.
You do whatever you want. Yeah, it's awesome, dude. I love just looking over the lineup after you make it. You're like, wow, look at this. What the heck? All right, here we go. Here we go. See, it's got Equanimous grayed out there.
All right. I see. All right.
So we can't use.
Oh, he's on New Orleans now? I didn't even know.
Yeah. Can't use Equanimous St. Brown, unfortunately. There we go. Okay. So we got guys from that game. What other games here? High over under games.
Atlanta Philly has 47.5. That's a reasonably high over under considering the state of the NFL right now. So I think that's one that we can lean to as well.
Yeah. Also, we got to do Rams Cardinals as well.
Yes. So let's go with Trey McBride. I think I'm happy with Anthony Richardson here. No confidence in putting Marvin Harrison Jr. in yet. I think with the tight end premium, we know Trey McBride's going to see plenty of work, so we can put him in whether it's at tight end or flex.
Yep. And this again, tight end premium, so it doesn't rule us out from using another tight end if we feel like it.
Right.
So I like that. On the Rams, we already have Kupp in.
Right.
Let's save the Eagles for the end because of the flexibility there.
Good call.
Because we can kind of do whatever we want. We need another running back. Here's who we had highlighted from the running backs.
Mixon.
Yeah, we had Mixon highlighted. We had Breece Hall highlighted. I'm going to remove Pollard.
I've Breece is my RB2. I do like Breece. I think that we got to find a way to put him in.
Yeah, I'm going to remove Pollard, Charbonnet, Dobbins, like guys we mentioned that we're not going to use.
We go with Kamara and Breece as our running backs, and then we've got flexibility if we want to go with Saquon, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, whoever at a Philly game later.
Yeah. Okay, so we got 3 flexes left here. Team so far is Anthony Richardson, Breece Hall, Alvin Kamara, Cooper Kupp, Chris Godwin, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Trey McBride. And to be honest, Kluge, I've done enough of these that like just having Chris Godwin and Kamara in there is probably enough differentiation because it really is chalk. So now I think we just want, with these 3 flex spots, we just want to put in the chalkiest of chalk plays out there.
So Jamar Chase, Rashee Rice, Saquon Barkley. Is that where we're at?
I don't know if I want to do Chase, man.
Really?
With the Joe Burrow and Trent McDuffie, they got one good corner. I definitely want to put Rice in.
Yeah.
What about CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah, I forgot about CeeDee Lamb, of course. Yeah, we'll put CeeDee Lamb in there. That gives us my Tyreek Hill. Unfortunately, it didn't work out yesterday. But that's my wide receiver 2, 3, and 4 on the week.
Yeah, you need the matchups. You know what I mean? You need the
CD,
matchup.
Cooper Kupp, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you say Saquon or AJ Brown was the last one?
I prefer Saquon to A.J. Brown. Saquon's my RB1 on the week, but I don't have a strong stance either way. I think they're both really, really good plays this week.
Yeah. I mean, Saquon looked so good.
He did.
Let's just
Dude,
start.
that catch that he had, like a diving catch in the end zone is like, how did the Giants have this guy for as long as they had him and never ran these types of plays to him?
It blew my mind, boggled my mind. But then I've seen it so many times. I watched Evan Ingram struggle for
Yeah.
so long, and then he comes out and with a real quarterback has the second most targets of all time. So okay, we're good there. Saquon Barkley, I'm going to leave. I always
Set
move the
ourselves
guy.
up for a Jake Moody, too. I didn't even realize that by kind of avoiding the 49ers. We got ourselves the best kicker in the league.
Super moody, dude. Superstar. Then we need a defense. So the options for defense that we had highlighted.
Chicago at
Yeah.
Houston, no chance. Minnesota at San Francisco, no chance. We
Can
talked about the
use
Chargers at Carolina. I do like that matchup quite a bit.
Yeah, because we already used Anthony Richardson. So the three defenses there's two defenses we could use. We could use Seahawks against Patriots or Chargers at Carolina.
I like
I think we got
Chargers
to go
at Carolina,
Chargers.
man. Bryce Young looked. I was so buying into like the Dave Canales can resuscitate any quarterback narrative this offseason, but I think even Dave
Yeah.
Canales can't fix Bryce Young.
All right, there you have it, folks. Here's the lineup: Anthony Richardson at quarterback, Brees Hall, Alvin Kamara at running back, Cooper Kupp, Chris Godwin at wide receiver. The flexes are Saquon Barkley, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Rashee Rice. At tight end, we have the tight end premium legend Trey McBride. Then we have Jake Moody, best kicker in the league, and we're starting the defense playing Carolina. I think that's pretty good.
So the one thing I will say, I know we're running low on time here, but I do have Joe Mixon ahead of Alvin Kamara in my rankings, and we don't have anybody from the Texans. Is that a switch you'd want to make, or is there somebody else you'd want to pull out for Joe Mixon, or do you think we're pretty good where we're at?
Call me crazy.
You like Kamara and PPR? I get it.
I was going to say call me crazy, but I was thinking like take out like Amon-Ra St. Brown and put in Mixon.
I don't think it's all that crazy. Let's
I don't
do it,
think it's
man.
crazy. I don't think it's
Do it.
crazy. I think the Lions might be a more balanced team now.
Yeah.
As much as that stinks for fantasy, because we just
And
like
Mixon,
them.
I think Mixon's just going to keep seeing 20 plus touches every single week, and he meshes so well with that wide zone blocking scheme. I think we're just going to see him continue to eat every single week.
Boom shakalaka. Yeah, you know what? That feels right. Now it feels like our guys.
Yeah,
Right?
I like it.
That's good.
I like
That's
it.
clear. All right, dude. Hey, well, thank you so much for coming on, for setting up this team that's probably going to crush. And when we win, we have decisions whether we want to take cash or like last year, me and Theo Greminger won one, and we decided to take the Fantasy Pros Championship entry, and then we did a show making that team. So I'll let you know. When we win, we'll decide if we want to take the cash or we want to let it ride. But
I'm always letting it ride.
I figured you would, dude. That's the thing. So okay, hey, tell everybody what you got going on, where they can find you. I know you guys got a bunch of cool new shows over there, over at Football Guys, man. New channels and stuff too. So tell everybody real quick, and we'll get you out of here.
Yeah, staying busy this time of year. Doing 4 shows Monday through Thursday with Alfredo Brown at youtube.com/@footballguys or @fantasy. I don't know. You can find it. Search Football Guys. I don't come prepared for this stuff. Alfredo does all the marketing for us. Just search Football Guys, Fantasy Football Show. You'll find our stuff. But then I've also got an audio only episode that I do with Jeff Bell on Friday morning. So woke up at 5 a.m. recorded that one in the darkness before dawn this morning. Got to make sure that gets out. And then
you know what I want? I want a podcast that's Jeff Bell, but it's just Jeff Bell, but he's taking both sides of every argument. That's what I think.
You can do it.
I think he could crush that if he just sit down and record each one and then piece them together. That's what I want, because Jeff, he's such a thinker, man. It's so fun. It's so fun to listen to him talk his way through things. That's the podcast I want. Bell versus Bell. But sorry to interrupt.
We did a long this offseason. We did 8 series where we broke down every single division. Each episode was like 90 to 120 minutes, so they were long episodes. And we recorded that entire series in 1 week, where it was just Jeff and I. We would just sit down at our computers for like 4 hours on a weeknight and just talk through every single team by team, just picking apart every single depth chart and roster. And I feel like when we finished recording that, I was like, okay, like I'm ready for football now. Like I have dissected every single roster up and down. He's a good dude to talk shop with, but
Like
we just had
Iron
that
Man
episode come
walking
out
out of
this
the
morning.
cave, right? Dude,
Yeah.
ready to go. So he's a great guy, man.
But really, just follow me on Twitter at Dave Kluge, and I share all my content there. You'll see what I'm up to.
Awesome. That's it. You guys know what I'm doing. Sirius XM tonight, 6 to 8. On Sunday will be live Sirius XM 10 to 11. And then right back on this channel, 11 to 10. 11 to noon Eastern time. I know we didn't get to everybody's questions. John and Pemba and I